it's time for the sequel. Who will be king of the mountain here today in MotoGP? This is the BMW M Grand Prix of Styria. So much happened here 7 days ago in Spielberg, 10 corners, but full of action. 3 left turns in all. The most prominent of those, the 2 left-handers at turns 6 and 7. Best race lap still stands from last year's winner and last week's winner, Andrea Dovizioso. There are 3 main overtaking zones here, but the most famous of all, the last couple of turns, 9 and 10. Great battles in the past between Dovi and Marquez. Moments away from the main event, KTM's first pole on home soil. Can pole deliver more glory for the Orange Army? No Marc Marquez, but Nakagami gives HRC hope. The Japanese rider starts from second. Mir was second 7 days ago and wants to go one better from third on the grid. And Miller leads the chasing pack as Ducati look to make it 6 from 6 in Austria. A new page turned. It's MotoGP Chapter 5. Good afternoon and welcome back to Austria, the Red Bull Ring circuit in Spielberg for the BMW M Grand Prix of Styria. The talking point as we come to you is that big grey cloud just above the grandstand there on top of the mountain overlooking this wonderful Red Bull Ring circuit as we get ourselves ready for the main event here. There's the famous bull and there is the aerial display that's just taken place here. No fans, but Red Bull at their home Grand Prix have a lot of hope here coming as Pol Espargaro will start from pole position for the first time in his career. The first ever time a KTM has been on pole as well, and an inaugural Styrian Grand Prix. A BMW M4 up for grabs for the winner later in the 900th Premier Class Grand Prix. Steve Dane, Matt Burt and Simon Crafar to talk you through it, and at the moment I'm wondering whether we're going to be talking over a dry race or a wet race. Is that raining over there? It looked like it might be.
Do not say that. Pol Espargaro then will come to a MotoGP grid for the first time, heading to pole position. His last pole before a brilliant performance in Q2 yesterday was his final Moto2 appearance at Valencia way back in 2013, and what a 13 days it's been for KTM. Brad Binder, their historic first winner in MotoGP in Brno now 2 weeks ago. Their first pole position yesterday in MotoGP, and what a day potentially for that man. Pit Byra, KTM Motorsport Director, and Mike Leitner, who's been so influential in the technical development of that KTM RC60. Now that is properly churning my stomach.
No,
Crikey.
No. What are you doing?
Like I've just said, there is not enough money in the world to get me in that helicopter right now. Here's a man who's flying high, a bit like that helicopter. Joan Mir, a career first MotoGP podium here 7 days ago. He loves the Red Bull Ring, twice a Moto3 winner. Can he take Suzuki's first win of 2020, first since Alex Rinz's heroics on that last lap against Marc Marquez at Silverstone last August? He's had brilliant race pace. He's one of the big threats. Keep an eye on him. He's backed himself. He's oozing confidence. Mir goes from the front row, of course. Qualified fourth, but moved up after that penalty inflicted on Johann Zarco after that controversial collision with Franco Morbidelli in that high-speed incident last weekend.
Whoever's piloting that is absolutely nuts. So then, we come into this Grand Prix of Styria. Here's Johann Zarco. Don't forget, he will start from pit lane despite brilliance in qualifying yesterday. He was third on the grid. That's where he qualified anyway. He'll be hoping that it does shower.
It's going to be a tough race with that broken right scaphe forward. He only had it operated on last Wednesday in Italy.
frantic work going on at the moment. This is as you enter the Red Bull Ring. You come into the entrance hall here, and who's that over there? The model of the world champion, Marquez. It was announced yesterday that he's going to be sitting out for a while longer. The world champion would like to send a message to you at home watching.
Hello everybody. So yeah, of course I miss MotoGP, and I would like to be there now with that kind of nervous on the stomach and be on the grid. But yeah, now it's time to recover well. About my injury, will be long, but I will come back as soon as possible because I miss MotoGP. I miss all the fans, and yeah, don't worry that I'm okay and I will come back.
Well, there you go.
Cool. A bit of Terminator about him. I'll be back. Yeah, we can't wait, can we? Yeah, the shock announcement yesterday. We all thought Marc Marquez, recovering from that right humerus bone he fractured in Jerez, was on course to be returning potentially at the next Grand Prix, the first of our doubleheader in Misano on September the 13th. But the surprise announcement coming from HRC just after Q2 yesterday, it's going to be a rehabilitation that's going to go on for at least another 2 or 3 months. Question marks about whether Marquez will actually be fit enough to ride at any stage in this 2020 World Championship. And of course, with the main man absent, well, we'll have a new World Champion in 2020, and will that man be the new king?
Fabio Quartararo opened the season off with 2 brilliant victories. He's still the World Championship leader, 11 points clear of Dovizioso. But it is fair to say it's been a bit of a gruelling task here in Austria over the last week or so. He is not favoured to find the podium. He has had so much trouble under braking. They thought they'd fixed it, but it didn't look like they'd fixed it this morning in warm-up.
Yeah, 2 key things have been affecting Fabio Quartararo this weekend: a lack of braking and a lack of horsepower, which is exactly what you need around this Red Bull Ring circuit. There's the new air fence and safety wheel, implemented of course immediately after consultations with the riders, the Safety Commission, Dorna, the International Race Team Association. Rapid and swift action taken by the circuit organisers here at the Red Bull Ring and MotoGP management to install that makeshift protective barrier after the horrible incident involving Johann Zarco and Franco Morbidelli. About 200 miles an hour they contacted last weekend. Of course, the flying bikes, just missing Maverick Vinales and Valentino Rossi. But you have to give a big shout out to all of the MotoGP management, all of the Red Bull Ring organisers for taking such swift and decisive action in the short space of time that they had available, Steve.
Yeah, well, you know, it takes years to decide whether you're going to change a layout of a circuit.
Yeah,
they did that in days. That was all they could do, and I think they've done a grand job. Here is Taka Nakagami. All Honda's hopes then, in the absence of Marc Marquez, fall on the shoulders of Takaki Nakagami. He's 6th in the World Championship, and for good reason. He's been brilliant all season long. He starts on the front row for the first time. And it's been a while, Matt, since we've had a Japanese rider on the front row.
Funny old game, isn't it, MotoGP 2020? Who would have thought, coming into the 5th round, that we'd be talking about Taka Nakagami being the top dog at HRC? Quite incredible. There is the nearby town of Judenberg, flanked by the spectacular Styrian mountains. It provides such a picturesque and scenic backdrop for one of the, if not the fastest Grand Prix circuit on the calendar. Alex Rins, helmet on, gloves on, he's ready to go. Don't discount Alex Rins going from that 2nd row of the grid. He's had tremendous race pace all weekend. Will we actually see 2 Suzukis finish on the podium together? The GSX-RR is a seriously competitive motorcycle this year, and you talk to any of the top MotoGP riders pre-race here today, and they're all saying Suzuki looks like it could be their biggest threat. Of course, with Pol Espargaro looking strong on the KTM as well, and Taka Nakagami in contention too.
The Red Bull helicopter capturing all these brilliant images. Who will be victorious on the 900th Premier Class race? Here's Jack Miller. It's good to see that he's out. A crash yesterday. Looked like a routine crash in MotoGP, but he's damaged some tendons in that shoulder. He's had some pain-killing injections, I would imagine, before the start of this. Didn't look so bad in warm-up. If he was fully fit, Matt, you throw him into contention immediately because his pace is there. He'll start fourth.
Yeah, and of course boosted by that brilliant podium here last weekend to end his bogey run here at the Red Bull Ring. Now these cooler, overcast conditions, it's going to be intriguing to see who has changed their mind in terms of rear tyre choice. Michelin this morning was saying there are only going to be about 5 riders, they felt, were going to go for the soft rear tyre, but it's a lot cooler than what we saw yesterday when we had ambient temperatures in the mid-30s, track temperatures at a peak of 54 degrees. It's a different racetrack today, so will that determine the rear tyre choices of these riders? Will some of them drop from the medium down to the soft? It's going to be fascinating to find out down the grid. It looked like there Fabio Quartararo, as you'd expect. He was coming to the grid on a used rear tyre, so he'll be changing over to a brand new tyre on the grid. Simon's got some information actually about Michelin from Piero Taramasso and the clan. Simon, what have you got?
Yeah, I just had a chat with him and he believes Honda, Aprilia and Avintia will go for the soft rear and the rest will go for the medium rear tyre.
Yeah, thanks for that. So I just saw Taka Nakagami actually exit on a brand new soft rear, so that fits. This is Alex Rins now exiting pit lane. If you can catch the coloured band on the side of the tyre, it will tell you exactly what he's coming to the grid on. But as Matt says, they can change them on the grid if they want to throw a curveball. But these are the coloured bands that you need to look out for. Could be a massive tyre test here today. If you see a yellow stripe, hard tyres, not many will be out on those, although the hard front seems to be favoured by the KTMs. Medium don't have any markings on them at all. And will we see the softer or medium rain tyres? We certainly hope not, because this is going to be some clash if it stays dry. But you just never know. I mean, MotoGP has been unpredictable enough as it is already in 2020. And, well, there you go, Simon Crafar saying it, you can feel the rain. It's got that feeling in the air. Do you know what? From the commentary box, I've noticed in the last few weeks, Matt, that you can kind of tell from the light.
Yeah, it goes dark,
It goes really dark very quickly here. Low-level cloud.
So for the first time in his MotoGP career, Pol Espargaro on the factory KTM on the number 44 machine comes to the front of the grid. KTM's first ever pole position in MotoGP. Paul Trevathan there just talking to him. He sounds all kind of relaxed, doesn't he, on the grid, Paul? Talking about his prospects of breaking his victory duck today. He actually feels like he was in a better position last weekend, of course. He was starting to bolt away on the Red Bull machine, wasn't he, in the first leg last week before the red flags came out. And he said this week, you can clearly see, in particular the Suzukis, they've closed the gap. The advantage that KTM had with a bit of testing here at the Red Bull Ring and those damp sessions which curtailed some of the dry track time, KTM had a clear advantage last weekend before that red flag came out. But he thinks that's been negated, particularly from the Suzukis, who've looked so good.
Yeah, Pol Espargaro, it's been a while since he's lined up on the front row and let alone pole position 7 years ago. Last time Pol made his way over. Joan Mir, a look straight up into the skies there as soon as he made his way onto the front row.
Yeah, there's going to be a few nervy and anxious faces. Look at that, it's another glimpse skywards.
He's looking to see if any rain falls on his visor there.
Yeah, he is. Wow. This would be a bit of a puff of the cheeks there as well from Fabio Quartararo. Of course, Joan Mir and Fabio Quartararo as rookies last year. There was no wet race, was there, at all in 2019? So even the likes of Quartararo and Joan Mir with a year on MotoGP bikes behind them, they don't have a lot of feel and experience in rain conditions.
Giacomo Guidotti on the left, who just saw a moment ago as well, Takeo Yokoyama. There is Carmelo Espeleta ahead of inaugural Styrian Grand Prix, and BMW dignitaries as well as the sponsors here. Let's hear from Paolo Giubatti then. Can Ducati defend this brilliant record here in Austria? He's on the grid with Simon.
Paolo, I have to be honest, I was picking the Suzukis and maybe Pol for the podium today, and then I watched warm-up and Andrea seemed to find something, maybe in T3. Do you believe the same, and he could be there for the fight for the win?
Yeah, well, obviously the start position is not ideal, but the race pace is very good, and also this morning in warm-up he found something in the first split, which is where he was losing. So we hope we can get a good start and stay with the leading group. Hopefully Paul and the Suzuki will not pull away, and then I think the race will be very open. So let's see. Obviously, you know, we also have Jack, who has a problem to his shoulder, but I think he can manage the race, and I'm also very curious to see what Johan Zarco can do starting from pit lane, because as you could see, he has been fast all weekend, so interesting race. I think we have good chances.
Thank you, Paolo.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks to Simon, thanks to Paolo Ciabatti. They do indeed have good chances, although it's quite rare that you come into a Red Bull Ring MotoGP race and not really tipping Ducati as favourites. The KTMs and Suzukis have looked so strong. And what about this man, Johan Zarco? Can he pull off some kind of miracle starting from the pit lane? He's had great speed, of course, irresponsible riding. He was adjudged in that controversial collision, the high-speed clash with Franco Morbidelli up at turn 2 last weekend. It means that he's going to have to start the race from pit lane, although he did an outstanding job yesterday in qualifying to put that year-old Ducati on the front row of the grid. Now, we've talked incessantly this weekend about how good the Suzukis have looked. Alex Rins briefly led the race here 1 week ago. Joan Mir took his first podium. You can make a strong case for both Suzukis finishing on the podium here today. Let's find out the pre-race thoughts of the team boss, Davide Brivio, who's with Simon.
Davide, I don't think any, ever the amount of people as today believe that Suzuki can get both bikes on the podium. I want to know your thoughts, and also what's going to happen weather-wise.
Yeah, I will be happy to have one bike on a podium, but you know, it's not easy. That's a lot of riders that are fast and can go good. Of course, we are between them. No doubt. I mean, we've been quite fast during the weekend, so for sure we are there. I hope we can fight until the end for the podium position. And but also the weather, as you say, it's like now the clouds are coming darker and more black clouds coming up. So I don't know, we are on the limit, I think, with the weather, and I hope it remains dry. Otherwise, I don't know, it's a big gamble.
Your riders, experience-wise, in the wet, I imagine Joan doesn't have too much.
Sorry?
Your riders, experience-wise, in the wet, if it does rain.
Yeah, not so bad. Alex did good races in the wet, but it's a long time we're not racing in the wet. I mean, if I'm not wrong, it's probably from Valencia 2018. We don't have a race on the wet. And in that race, Alex was brilliant. And Johan, of course, he doesn't have so much. He doesn't have experience on race. He did few laps sometime here and there. But okay, our bike is not too bad. But okay, I don't know. It's on the wet, and then becomes another story.
Thank you, Davide.
Yeah, thanks very much. It's a good point. Rins was very strong in that race in Valencia 2018. He was absolutely on the money. That was our last wet race. Do not discount him from that. We thought it was lightning from the commentary box a moment ago, but someone snapping away with a flash on the grid.
Somebody's winding us up and it's working.
Here is Miguel Oliveira. It's definitely getting darker here. We would potentially could have a flag-to-flag race on our hands. Number 88, 7th on the grid. Discount Miguel Oliveira at your peril, and likewise for fellow KTM rider Brad Binder, who on a Sunday does some extraordinary stuff. Just look back to 2 weeks ago.
In this part of the world as well, Steve, they don't tend to do light rain, do they? When it comes, it buckets down. Now then, what a 2 weeks it's been for KTM. Their first victory 2 weeks ago in Brno for Brad Binder. Their first pole yesterday for Pol Espargaro. Can Pol get the job done from Pol? Well, we can find out. Simon Crafar speaking to their technical boss, Mike Leitner.
That's just what I was thinking, Matt. Mike, Pol was incredible first start of the race last week. Do you feel he has that same sort of form and speed to do it again today?
Yeah, I mean, of course, he's in a very good performance stage just in the moment. And yeah, let's see how this race will went through. The weather is a big question mark. So yeah, let's cross the fingers that we will have a dry race to the end.
I have to ask you about your other KTM riders. How do you see them faring if it stays dry?
No, I think we have 4 strong riders on the grid, and hopefully everybody bring the bike home, and then we can do a great result, I think.
Thank you. Best of luck.
Yeah, thanks very much to Mike Leitner. There is Pit Byra just chatting to KTM press officer Sebastian Kuhn.
Let's not forget as well that Valencia 2018 Grand Prix in those pouring rain conditions. Pol Espargaro was on the podium. KTM's first ever MotoGP rostrum, wasn't it? So the RC16 has got a few tricks in rain conditions as well.
Simon makes a great point about Dovi. This morning there was something a bit different in those cooler conditions about Dovi. If he can get that bike off the line, I mean, you'd be ridiculous to rule out Dovi. You would here.
First task though for him, Steve, it's such a short run up to the first corner and very, very tight. When you're in that middle of the third row, you're always in that danger zone. First mission for Dovizioso, he's just going to be able to come through that first corner clean, keep himself out of trouble. Then we know what Andrea's like. He'll bed himself in, he'll work up to his rhythm, no doubt about it. He's got race winning potential. What he's concerned about is Pol Espargaro braking like he did last weekend, and then he can't bridge that gap back. Well, not an easy weekend so far for Maverick Vinales and Valentino Rossi. They're starting 5th and 14th respectively. A few horsepower issues, but what does Maya Meregali, Monster Energy Yamaha team boss, think about his two men's prospects going into this 28-lap race? Well, we can find out because it's with Simon Crafer right now.
Mayo, can you give us your thoughts on your two riders going into this race?
Yeah, anyway, it's really difficult to have a prediction because after the first race, now the lap time are very, very close. For sure, it won't be an easy race as always. Even for Valentino will be even more difficult because he started from the 5th row. We planned to try to start at least from the 3rd, but we went backwards 1 row. Anyway, it will be even more tough for sure for him. For Maverick, anyway, the pace was good that he showed during these practices, and we anyway have the aim to finish on the podium. But I think many others have the same target.
Mayo, I think if it does rain, it's the experienced guys often that can shine and get it to the end, and I think Valentino has a really good chance then. What do you think?
Yeah, for sure, when it's like this, it's very tricky, and the experience usually pay, but sometimes also some craziness is paying also. As far as the information we receive, it should stay dry, and maybe some drops may come, but for sure we expect that the tarmac will remain dry.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks to Massimo Meregali. Valentino Rossi, definitely, if the weather gets tricky, look out for him. Here's another experienced Italian then, just looking through. Can he make it? Back-to-back wins here in Austria.
Can you believe it as well? We just saw Valentino Rossi walking to the grid for the 900th Premier Class race. He has taken part in 38.4% of them. Astonishing appearance record for Valentino Rossi. There's Andrea Dovizioso there. Can Ducati take a 6th straight victory?
Well, there you go. That's the message from Marc Marquez. He's tipped Quartararo and Dovi to fight for the World Championship. We'll see if that comes to light. What about the chances of Jack Miller here today? Still carrying injury, possibly some painkilling injections. Francesco Guidotti's on the grid with Simon.
He is. Francesco, Jack looked so strong last week, and I expected the same this week. He's super fast. But what about the injury? Is it going to be a problem today?
We don't know because on the long distance we didn't try. This morning was pretty good. After the MRI, the evidence is there's something in the deltoid in the muscle, but nothing else on tendons. So this is good. But 28 laps is a lot, and he still have some pain. We'll see. We know he's stronger. He's very strong. He's a real Australian, but the contenders are very, very fast, so we'll see.
Thank you.
Yeah, if anyone's going to fight, it's the Aussie with the Kiwi roots, isn't it? He will not be letting this one go. No chance of him sitting out. Here is Johan Zarco. A big task starting from pit lane. Danny Pedrosa's done it. Didn't he win from pit lane in 2012?
There was a race, wasn't there? Yeah, that was in Valencia as well. That was a rain-hit Grand Prix. There's Fabio Quartararo there. Modest expectations from the Frenchman, happy with a top 6. Who'd have thought after those brilliant dominant victories in Jerez that he struggled to find himself in the top 6 both in Brno and Red Bull Ring 1.
So Marc Marquez says Quartararo's got the speed, but Dovi's got the experience. Are we speaking too soon to suggest that it's just a 2-horse race though? MotoGP looks like it's far more wide open than that, and it could be even more so after today's proceedings.
You would not rule out Maverick Vinales. Brad Binder's coming into contention as well.
And the Suzukis, if they can start putting a run together.
Indeed. Fabio Quartararo then has never faced down the prospect of a flag-to-flag race. So many riders in this field would never have been in that situation and scenario. Alex Marquez then ploughing a lone furrow for the Marquez family right now, with older brother Mark sidelined, not indefinitely, but certainly for a couple of months more at least, with that right arm injury suffered in Jerez. Decent race speed yet again from Alex.
Okay, it's time for the national anthem of Styria.
But first, as to stand for the anthem of Styria, performed by Andreas Cavalier.
Ja, noch haust bis zum Wendeland am Bett der Saaf und vom Albtal an, dass die Mürz durchbraust bis ins Rebenland im Tal der Trau. Dieses schöne Land ist der Steirerland, ist mein liebes, teures Heimatland. Dieses schöne Land ist der Steirerland, ist mein viel geliebtes Heimatland.
It's a beautiful part of the world here, the misty mountains of Styria in the heart of Austria. There is the Styrian flag. Who will prevail? Who will be king of the mountain here in Austria? A 2-week break after this, an opportunity to recap, refresh ahead of Misano.
There are sore necks on the grid right now as everybody looks skywards to check what the latest weather conditions are. Cal Crutchler's having a bit of a torrid time right now on the LCR Honda machine, starting 17th, qualified 18th, his worst starting position since the British Grand Prix at Silverstone back in 2012. He says that right now we're just going around in circles, no direction with the setup, and Taka Nakagami proving that the 2020 Honda, no real improvement on last year's motorcycle, which was such a potent weapon in the hands of Marc Marquez. There's Aleix Espargaro getting set, cap off, getting ready for his challenge from 19th on the grid. Worst qualifying since Assen last year, although, to be fair to Aleix, in FP4, race pace was very, very strong. He was 7th quickest in that 4th practice session as he gets the earplugs already.
I've got to say, Matt, I'm quite torn here. This is one of the hardest MotoGP races to call, I think, that we've witnessed in a long time.
Do you know what? I couldn't agree more. I've absolutely no idea. Dovi's experience normally comes to the fore, doesn't it? But Joan Mir's looked so good all weekend. Pol Espargaro, we could be talking about a double MotoGP winner right now, not a guy who's coming into this race on the back of a double DNF after collisions with Zarco and Oliveira over the last 2 weeks. And you can't discount this young man. Taka Nakagami has been excellent. Race pace yesterday, he was quickest in that FP4 session. That's normally your barometer of where the guys are at in terms of their race rhythm. So I think there's probably at least 5 or 6 guys that are going to fancy a serious crack at winning this one.
It's anyone's game here for the BMW M Grand Prix of Styria. Someone will get the keys to a brand new, beautiful BMW M4 at the end of this race as well.
Saw that in the paddock the other day. Very, very nice piece of kit indeed. Wouldn't mind one of those on the drive outside my house, that's for sure.
Well, if you ask the winner nicely, you never know. Here is Johann Zarco. How is he feeling? He said that if it stays dry, he finds it difficult to believe he could maintain a pace to put in a good result, but if it's wet, it's a different story.
Great news for French fans as well. Johann Zarco will be staying in MotoGP next year on a Ducati. We're not quite sure the identity of his team. Still a bit of a shuffling of the pack to go in the Bologna manufacturer, but Paolo Ciabatti reporting yesterday that Zarco is staying. They've made an offer of 2 years to Pecco Bagnaia as well, but it's just where they slot into the line